All right, so now we're going to talk about mixing different colors together through our blending, our color intensities, our scumbling, and sgraffito. So what you want to do for your blending of two colors is pick two colors that are near each other on the color wheel. So I am going to work with blue, ultramarine specifically, and lavender. So this specific lavender is not directly next to blue, but purple is. So these colors are very similar in their relationship to cool colors. We've already blended with two colors, but it was a little bit different. We did it when we were working on our value scale. So you're going to start very similar, where you're going to have your pure color, and then I'll have my pure color of my lavender over on this side. And then in the middle, those colors are going to blend together. So I'm going to start with my blue and then work across, lightening the pressure as I go across the page. So this is very similar to the gradation with pencil pressure. And you can see I'm still going over towards that lavender, and it's getting lighter and lighter and lighter. And I don't go over my lavender, but I stop right at it. Now I'm going to work with my lavender and fill in that space, and then work with my pencil pressure again and lighten that pencil pressure as I go across. So this lavender is not going to change the blue as much because it's the lighter value. So I might find that I have to go over this again. Multiple layers are so much better than trying to accomplish this by going over it twice. It is much, much easier to fix mistakes if you are allowing yourself to build up thin layers. So I'm going to go across this because I know that's good, that's done. And this is my lighter color. So this is going to be my burnishing color. I am not going to burnish with the colorless blender. Wow, that blue really changed that violet color. It does blend in the center. It is slightly different here than it is out here, but there's not that much of a difference here because the blue is so vibrant that it is really difficult to get this color to change. So just keep that in mind. I should have gone much, much lighter with my blue to create more of this value in the center, or something about right in here. Color intensity is another blending with two colors, but you are going to use colors that are opposite from each other on the color wheel. So I'm going to continue using my blue, but I'm picking up an orange. Blue and orange are opposites on the color wheel. So in the center, we are shooting for brown, okay? We want brown. Color intensity is all about making those colors duller. So again, I'm going to start with blue on the one side, and over on this side, I'm going to have orange. This time I'm going to start with my orange, my lighter value, and I'm going to bring that across. That way I can control how much of that goes down first and lighten as it goes towards the blue. And then very light layers of blue, as I have learned from last time, this blue will adjust my color so quickly because it's very similar to black where it's dark, and it will adjust that color really fast. Okay, now I'm going to go back over it with a light layer of orange all the way across, and then adding more blue. I can see that some of my blue is starting to change, and I'm getting more browner tones in this area. So as I go across that section where it's a little browner, it's going to look a little darker. See how it looks kind of brown in that area? So if you need to create a color that's not so bright, using the opposite color or the complementary color is a great way to make a color not so intense. Some of you will be working with brighter colors to have it more eye-catching, but some of you are going to want these deeper more muted tones. And that's okay. And I think that's great. I think it's wonderful that you're working with colors that are not right out of the box. Trying to augment those colors a little bit. I think is a very wonderful thing. All right, so here I have my color intensity, and there are a few little white spaces. So what I'm going to do is, instead of worrying about completely burnishing this with my pencils, I'm going to go over the whole thing with the colorless blender. Working on my dark section first, my darker side, and then do you see all that color there on my colorless blender? It's going to adjust what happens on here. You can see that already happened there. So what I need to do is just kind of clean it off a little bit by just coloring with it. And then I'll be able to blend in that lighter section. You could also work from light to dark, and that's going to help change that as well. You can see that this is definitely browner. This is orange, this is blue, this is brown. Each of the color complementary pairs will create a different type of brown. Scumbling! What I want you to do for scumbling is pick up 3 colors. I don't care what those 3 colors are. I don't care if you think that they're going to work together or they're going to look super crazy. I am going to work with yellow, orange, and blue. I'm going to start with my yellow, my lightest color, and I'm going to scumble in the box with my yellow. I'm going to go corner to corner, top to bottom, side to side. Now I'm going to add a little bit of the orange into it. And I'm going to scumble across the whole thing. And just add a little bit of the orange up here into this top corner, but I am not going to completely fill it in. Now I'm going to add my blue. And I am going to fill that in, leaving some of this open area. Just add a little bit of the blue into it, and just a tiny bit of blue up into that corner there. It is building up different types of values, different types of color. Maybe this is a little bit of using color as different values. So my yellows is my brightest value, and my oranges as my medium, and my blues as my shadow. So that's scumbling with 3 colors. You do not have to worry about that being burnished or blended. Sgraffito. Sgraffito is a really fun technique, but you need a piece of tracing paper for this. So what you're going to do is go over your pencil with a piece, or go over your paper, put a piece of tracing paper on it first, and then you are going to dig into it with a pencil. Now let me find a piece of tracing paper here. A regular piece of paper will work as well. So I can use this orange piece of paper. And something that I have to do is I really have to dig into this. So I'm going to use my pencil and I'm going to push down really hard. Remember we did Sgraffito with the watercolor, and you used a paper clip and you scratched at your paper. That would work too. Sgraffito is really anything about scratching or making dents into your paper and then going over it so that those dents or those scratches are not filled in. So now what I'm going to do is take my pencil, I'm going to use the same 3 colors, and I'm going to lightly go over this. You can start to see those lines coming through. I am working in the opposite direction of my Sgraffito lines. That way those Sgraffito lines really show up. And I'm not pushing down very hard on this section at all. These sections can be burnished a little bit then to create those other completely filled in brighter sections. Just playing around with these colors here, creating different intensities and different brightnesses. You can go over this with another texture. So I could have used scumbling, or I could have used cross hatching to go over this section. But plain filling this in with a nice blended value, I think is working very well here. And I am going over this, and I'm creating multiple layers on this, and this sgraffito is still staying. It's still standing nice and prominent and white out of these colors that I'm laying down. So it is possible to create multiple values and heavier colors on top of sgraffito. All right, so those are your different blending techniques: textures, non-textures, mixing two colors together. One thing that I do want to show you, and I'm going to flip the paper over for this, is what colorless blenders will not do. So let's say I wanted to take this orange, or this blue, and it's completely solid, right? And I want to take this orange, and it's completely solid. And I want to blend those two together. Very similar to how I did with my color intensity. I take my colorless blender, doesn't really work. Doesn't really work. It creates a slight change because the blue is so dark, but it doesn't create a change in the way that you want it to. If this was lighter and not so filled in, you would still have the same problem. It's not going to create that blended value that you need. So you need to make sure that you're working in layers to create these smooth transitions. And make sure that your layers are light. Remember, my blue was not light enough. So you want to lightly layer until you get the value that you want.